welcome to episode 3 of the Behind the Beacon podcast. I'm your host, Seth Orensky. Before we get to our first interview, I want to remind all of our student athletes that this is the first week of the expanded True Beacons program seminars. The senior class session is tonight, Tuesday, September 22nd. The freshmen are on Wednesday, September 23rd, and the sophomores are on Thursday, September 24th. All sessions will begin at 7 p.m. Emails with more information about the sessions and the Zoom links went out over the last week. There are several new sessions in the pipeline, so make sure to check out our social media pages and the True Beacons page on beaconsathletics.com for more information. Our first guest this week is women's soccer coach Amy Zombeck. Amy has been the head coach for the past 15 seasons and is the winningest coach in program history with a 153, 126, and 28 all-time record. Last season, she guided the Beacons to a 19-3-1 mark, and Umass Boston won both the Little East Conference regular season and tournament championships. We caught up with Coach Zombeck to talk about the anniversary of her first win as a head coach, how she and the team are trying to make the most of it without a season this fall, and some of the players who have impacted her during her time as a Beacon. We're joined by UMass Boston women's soccer head coach Amy Zombeck. Coach, how are you doing?
Good. How are you, Seth?
Doing great. Coach, it was the 15th anniversary of your first win as a head coach just a couple days ago. What do you remember from that 6-0 win over Mitchell College in the fourth game of your head coaching career?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind are the players really pushed themselves to be better, wanting to make a difference as a new coach coming in, getting them to buy into the belief of the program and that we can win was emphasized throughout. And I mean, these girls played their hearts out every single game, whether we won or lost, like they played their hearts out. And that day, I think they realized the potential and that they can play.
You're a coach who sometimes has some nervous energy on the sideline. Did it make it easier that you outshot Mitchell 60-0 that day, where you kind of knew maybe this is going to be that first W?
We were a small team, so a lot of the coaching came within the games of just kind of teaching the tactical aspect. We didn't have enough to play 11 aside. And so a lot of the in-game nervousness was about trying to get them into the right positions and keep encouraging them that they got this, and really just trying to coach them up.
You knew UMass Boston as both a player and as an assistant coach. You were a Keene State Owl, now a rival of the program, and you were really dominant up at Keene. You were the LAC Player of the Year in 1998. As an assistant coach, you won 5 both regular season and tournament championships combined in your 4 years, while UMass Boston went over in conference. What attracted you to this job at UMass Boston to be the head coach?
Well, first, the opportunity to keep coaching and have my own program. But the biggest thing was being able to build something with pride and work to keep it, create a championship culture, and find players that believed in the program. And it really, I don't look back and regret my decision for a second.
You talk about building something, not to say that it's fully built, because I think even if you win a national championship, there's still building blocks there. You want to win multiple national championships, but you've certainly come closer to building that championship culture recently. Program record 19 wins last year, a regular season championship, a tournament championship in dominant fashion. How difficult is it to not get this group back here in 2020, knowing what you were able to accomplish last fall?
Trying to build this program back to kind of the 2012, 2013, 2014, where we were competing for a championship consistently. It was tough. And once we had, kind of that rebuild again, and losing this year, it's been really tough. these girls it's a special group. They're very focused on their academics. They all have great character and personalities, and their compete level on the field is top notch. And to not be able to defend our championship was really heartbreaking. But at the same time, my priority is keeping my players safe and healthy along with their families. And when we get back on the field, I have no doubt that they're going to have a hunger and a mentality that's ready to prove something again.
How do you stay connected with the group? How does the group stay tight and have that bond together when you don't have that in-person practice or games or bus rides? How do you work towards that, knowing that there will be games down the line and the hope is that you can pick up where you left off rather than having to take a step or two back? Because some of these other teams do have the advantage of getting those practices and those inter-squad games in this fall, even within the Little East Conference.
It's tough no matter what. We try with Zoom, having meetings with the team and touching base through FaceTime and text messaging and group stuff to keep connected. There's nothing that compares to seeing them in person, and that's the toughest part. And working on the connection, we're going to be doing some different things this fall, working with a sports psychologist, and we're creating a game plan for them that they can do on their own. So when we do get back as a team, they should be prepared. It's a matter of kind of that cliche where, it's time to practice when no one's watching and go as hard as you can. So
what are some of those things that maybe that you're preaching that they can work on, some of those things that you hope, where soccer is obviously a sport where you need other players to do certain things. It's a difficult sport to just play alone, but what are some of those things that you're preaching that you're asking your players to do where hopefully they can come back with improved skills in certain areas or maybe improved knowledge of the game in certain areas?
One of the lucky parts about my summer is I was able to watch Sam Mewis train on her own, the World Cup champion. She's over with Man City right now, but I was able to watch her individual sessions, and just watching how much the focus was on the technical aspect of the game really drove me to focus my plan and our coaches staff plan on that technical aspect. Can we make our players quicker? Can, just kind of those basic things that in the long run, once you put them into a regular game, will make a huge difference. So really kind of that technical aspect, working on their soccer fitness is pretty difficult because the best way to get soccer fit is playing. So trying to come up with ideas to help with that aspect of endurance and recovery, those quick short sprints where you may not have a lot of recovery time, like how can we work that aspect? And just to me, it's the little things that are going to make the big difference in the long run. And with our team, we're going to know who's prepared and who is not. And some interesting things could happen if people are not taking it seriously.
Coach, I think anybody who works in college athletics or higher ed will always think about the athlete first and the student first about how they're doing. But from a coaching perspective, how does something like this, where you're forced to not be able to coach this season, motivate you or provide you with a different perspective going into next year, where hopefully we're seeing the Beacons back out there competing for a championship? Does this change your mindset or give you a little bit of a reset? You've been doing this for 15 years now at the head coaching level at the same spot. Does this change kind of your mindset in any way, or maybe your hunger?
I think I didn't realize how hard of a time I was going to have with missing the season in regards to the competition, because again, my focus has always been making sure everyone is safe and healthy. And again, that's my number one priority. And in the back of your mind, you're constantly justifying that. But the competition is, you just miss it. And my focus really has been, how can I make this team better? How can we come together as a team, bring those new players in? Because like you said, there's teams out there that are on the field right now practicing, and their new players are getting used to their systems and such. So how can we coordinate as a coaching staff to provide the team and the new players the insight of how we want to move on, hopefully when we see each other in the spring.
Coach, one final question, and this is going to be a difficult one. I know you're going to give me a little bit of flack for it, but I've been asking everyone thus far who their favorite athlete was within their program. So I guess, who was your favorite athlete to coach? I know that you've had so many tremendous athletes, it'd be difficult, but maybe just give me one, maybe two names max of someone that you really enjoyed coaching, and maybe why that person made an impact on you or such a pleasure to coach.
I don't know if I can really answer that. Like it's every player brought everything they had to our program, and that's all I could ever ask of them. They took pride when they put on the Beacons uniform. And I mean, there's players that, make me laugh every day, and still make me laugh from some of the alumni, like Sam Cristoforo. Watching her play was amazing, and what she could do with the ball and how she played on both sides of the ball. Taylor Andrews with her famous chop, that just broke ankles, so to speak. And Catherine Wall, who left every possible ounce of her on the field. She was amazing, and just thinking of everything she went through as a player, and then, as a cancer survivor, and then ultimately losing her battle to the disease showed me like how tough and the fight she had in her. Crystal Gutierrez, she was center back from California. She was probably our first, difference maker in the back technically. And, you put her on this team, she's going to be potentially a starting back and a difference maker, an all-conference player, and it's with each year that passed, like, I can't say enough about just I wish I could go through every player, because every player has made an impact on my life, both on and off the field. Alyssa Fugel, who got 2 years and then stayed with us for 2 years as kind of a student assistant coach, and just, I guess at the bottom line, and what you should put into this podcast, is the fact that every player has made a difference in my life, both on and off the field. And there's been tough times that we've had to go through, and we did it together. And we've had the celebrations, of 2019 championship, and those players are having the same impact, on me, both on and off the field. And I just hope the relationships that we build, I can have forever with these players.
Coach, I know it's a difficult question, and made more difficult with every year you spend as a head coach at Umass Boston. Appreciate the time. I appreciate the honesty, and we can't wait to see the women's soccer team back on campus and back at their first game, whenever that is.
Me too, Seth.
That was my interview with women's soccer coach Amy Zombeck. The Beacons were set to return 25 players this fall, including 10 of their 11 starters. Before we get to our next interview, I'd like to dig a little deeper on one of the On This Date posts from this past week. On September 22nd, 2018, men's cross-country runner Jimmy Cannon put together one of the best performances in recent memory. The sophomore recorded a career-best third-place finish at the 50th Annual Codfish Bowl with a time of 26:56. He finished behind two runners from Division I Merrimack and was just 11 seconds out of first place. Cannon's third-place finish is the best finish for any Beacons cross-country runner since at least 2008. Now let's turn to our second guest. Men's tennis senior Alexander Commerciaro just got back to Massachusetts after 3 weeks in Flushing, New York. Alex served as a ball boy for both the Western and Southern Open, and then the U.S. Open, and was able to witness some of the best tennis players up close during his 3 weeks away. Alex and I discussed his time working as a ball boy, the difficulties of losing the men's tennis spring season due to COVID-19, and how he and the team are trying to stay ready for the upcoming 2021 season. We're joined by men's tennis senior Alexander Commerciaro, who just spent the past couple of weeks down in Flushing, New York, working both the Western and Southern Open and the U.S. Open as a ball boy. Alex, what was that experience like, getting to watch some of the best tennis players in the world when no one else could be there?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was right up close, so I could really see what was happening, and there was no distractions from crowd or whatever. And it was my first time that close to that level of tennis. So it was just pretty cool experience.
You've been to the U.S. Open before as a fan. What enticed you to apply to be a ball boy this time around?
Yeah, I was going to go back this year as a fan again, but once COVID hit, there was that really wasn't an option. So I just decided to apply and see if I could still go for free and get paid to go. So, yeah.
What was that application process like?
It was just a minute and a half video on why you thought you should be a ball person. So I basically said I've been working my whole life in tennis and played tennis, and just sent a clip of me playing, and that was good enough.
Nice. Bubbles are all the rage in sports right now, obviously, with the NBA, the WNBA, tennis, even the talk of doing bubbles in baseball going forward. What was that experience like? I know you weren't in the bubble like some of the players and the officials, but just in terms of being able to get in every day and kind of the difference in what it normally would look like.
Yeah, I mean, for us to get in, because I was staying with my grandfather, we had to just take a temperature check, fill out a brief survey that we hadn't been exposed to anyone, and get tested every 4 days. But I think the bubble, for the players and officials, work really well, although there were a couple cases of not perfect behavior, but I think it worked pretty well.
What was it like? You talked about being up close. At points, the only people there are the officials, the players, maybe a trainer or a coach, and the ball boys, whether you were working the match or you were in the stands. What was that like to literally be maybe one of a dozen people watching some of the best players in the world playing their sport?
Yeah, it was just pretty unique. Normally there's a ton of fans, but it sort of felt like they were playing for you as opposed to just playing for everyone else. It sort of felt more personal and everything.
Who were some of the players, or maybe one of the matches that you really enjoyed getting to watch that you'll kind of treasure going forward?
I saw Medvedev play Tiafoe, who's a young American guy, and it was on Arthur Ashe at night, which is the biggest court, and that was pretty cool. Medvedev won pretty easily, but still a cool experience.
You got to work both of the semifinals at the U.S. Open. Typically, that ticket is going to cost, I'm assuming, hundreds of dollars. What was that experience like to get to watch 8 players who were playing extremely well? Probably just 4 because they play the men's and women's on opposite days, but players who were playing extremely well with a chance to see a new champion, at least on the men's side.
Yeah, I mean, the women's semifinal from a quality standpoint, I think was a little bit higher, but I mean, both were really cool, and you're right on top of it, and there's really no one else except for coaches and trainers and a couple of other staff in the building. So it's really cool to see the atmosphere that they generate and everything.
I know you didn't get a lot of contact with the players because they're trying to isolate as much as possible everyone from each other, but as a tennis player, were you able to take something away from watching these matches, whether it's something in terms of a mental focus or maybe even seeing some of their dispositions, how they play, certain shots that they were taking that you could maybe add to your game?
I mean, they're on just like such a different level, like in terms of everything from like fitness to really everything else. But I mean, if anything, like footwork and fitness, but not too much. Like it's just a whole different level.
Maybe a little bit of motivation to get some of those things into your game?
Yeah, potentially. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, speaking of your game, Alex, you and the entire men's tennis team were looking like you were primed for a really big season in the spring before the pandemic hit. I know that former coach Charles Lai had really high expectations. The talent level seemed to be at an all-time high. How difficult was it losing the season, especially after you guys had gotten 3 matches in and started to show maybe yourselves what you were capable of?
Yeah, I mean, this was going to be our strongest team yet, probably, of like the past 2 that had won the league. And so our goal has sort of just been to like win one NCAA tournament match, which would be like the first for our conference ever. So like not having the ability to do that or like the chance was like kind of sucked.
Were you able to continue playing tennis at all after the season ended? I know your brother was on the team, which had to be a little bit unique after he wasn't the first couple of years you played, but also having someone in the family who can play college tennis probably makes it a little easier to get out there and hit some balls.
Yeah, I mean, once the weather shifted to become like nice enough, we were able to get out whenever we wanted, really. But like I was working and had school to finish, so I didn't play like a ton. But I've started to like play a bunch more now.
Does that help just in terms of staying mentally positive, being able to, especially now while it's still nice, getting out there, playing your sport? Tennis is one of the sports where it's a little bit easier to socially distance, but getting to play on a regular basis when you know in the next couple of months it might be a little bit more difficult, especially as the weather turns.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually heading to California for like the rest of the semester in a couple weeks, so I'll be in fine weather and able to play like way more. But um, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have someone to play with always and like someone at a similar level. And our high school is pretty competitive, so we have like like a group of like 8 or 9 players that we can always just like hit up and see who wants to hit.
What's the plan for California? Where in California? What are you doing out there?
Just going to Palm Springs with my mom and brother just to hang out and do the semester over there. Nice weather and no real reason.
Hey, sounds beautiful. So
Yeah.
how do you stay focused? How does the team stay focused? Obviously, unfortunately, Coach Lai just left to go to grad school, so you don't have a coach to maybe provide that bond on the team. Now you're one of the older players with O and with Sal graduating. How do you kind of keep some kind of team bond going, hoping that there is a season in the spring and that you can chase down another LEC title?
I mean, that's sort of been tough because like both of our captains left, our coaches left, so there has definitely been a lack of leadership. But I think everyone should just try to hit like amongst themselves or with people that they know and just try to make the most of it, I guess.
With that, how do you hopefully hit the ground running with the goal of being back early in 2021? How does this tennis team that does have high expectations kind of hit the ground running, knowing that you're going to have a new coach, that some people are going to have to fill that leadership role that O and Sal filled the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, everyone should be able to like hit as much as possible on the side. Like I know Kevin, our number 3 or 4 or 5 or something. His brother's a good player, so he can always hit with his brother, and they play at Sportsman's a lot. Like a bunch of our other players, I know Nandish is playing a lot in India. Hopefully, one of our potential transfers comes in, and then yeah, I think just like if everyone can play like a bit, then it should be fine in the winter.
Perfect. Well, Alex, it was great catching up. Very jealous of the fact that you got to see that high-level tennis, especially up close. hopefully will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity going forward. Hopefully we won't see too many more bubble situations in major sporting events. But it was great catching up and hearing about what you've been up to the last couple months.
Yeah, fun times. But yeah, thanks for reaching out.
That was my interview with men's tennis senior Alex Commerciaro. The men's tennis team is set to return 6 of their top 7 players this spring as they look to defend their 2019 Little East Conference title. That's all for episode 3 of the Behind the Beacon podcast. Make sure to tune in next week when I'll have interviews with Little East Conference Commissioner Pam Samuelson and volleyball alum Pepper Baker. See you next week.